Hey, this is Ricky. The doctor is in. And the doctor will be in a few minutes. Dr. Mo is running out of a meeting and she's on her way and she'll be here to join us. But in the meantime, I have our guest for today, Meg Cadoux. How are you, Meg?
Vicky, thanks for having me.
We're so glad you're here. And we're going to talk about, my hair's a mess. We're going to talk about lifestyle changes that could affect your cancer, right? And, we talk about this a lot. We talk about, hair products. We talk about good eating. We talk about all these things that just to be healthy, really, just to be healthy people, right? But I always I wonder about cancer. I don't think you can really prevent breast cancer, but you can really detect it. But maybe you can prevent a recurrence. I don't know. But I think we all should try to be as healthy as we can, But Meg, you've been doing so much work in this area for many years. So first, tell us your cancer story. Tell us your story.
Yeah, it's a good place to get started. I was diagnosed with stage 3B breast cancer in 2001. I had the whole killing cure, so to speak, of surgery, chemo, and radiation. I was told there was a really very good chance I would never see the cancer again. But in 2008, I had a recurrence.
What kind did you have?
I had one bone metastasis, so I was very lucky to just have that one, because often when it comes back in the bone, it comes back in many places, and they radiated it. But the interesting thing is that when I first had breast cancer, it was weakly positive, hormone positive, and in 2008, it was flat out negative.
Really?
They couldn't believe it. They tried it, a couple of biopsies, and it was just stone cold negative. And then I was 10 years without recurrence, and it came back in 2018 in my adrenal glands, which is a weird presentation. But
did you have a mastectomy the first time?
First time I did. Yeah. But it came back in my adrenal glands, and they were all puzzling about. But also it was negative again. So my cancer is officially triple negative, even though it didn't quite start that way. And then eventually we treated it with this, that, and the other, and then in kind of keeping it at bay. But then after a while, these treatments, by treatments, I took some chemo pills, but I didn't lose my hair or anything the second time. And I tried a few different things. It just, in the end, didn't work. So then in 2021, I guess it was 2 years ago, they gave me immunotherapy and all the tumors disappeared.
Wow. What did you take? Keytruda? What did you take?
Yeah, it was Keytruda. And they disappeared. I had maybe half a dozen in my peritoneum at that point. They disappeared completely. But I should say the reason that they gave me immunotherapy without chemo, which is very rarely that they do that with breast cancer, is because I had a lot of mutations in the tumor. Matter of fact, I was off the charts with mutations. And that tends to make for no guarantees, right? There's never guarantees, but it indicates that the straight up immunotherapy might be successful in that setting.
So help our audience out when you talk about mutations. Did you have genetic mutations, BRCA? What did you have?
Not BRCA. I didn't have BRCA, but I had, there's all these, if you've ever seen these panels that they do, there's a gajillion names for these mutations. I have no idea what they mean, PIK3A, and this is so many, right? And so some of them are kind of targetable mutations, and some are just mutations, random mutations that they can't target at all. But what I didn't have seriously targetable ones, but I had such a volume that they thought, literally, my test came back. I had more mutations than 100% of breast tumors tested by that test.
Wow.
Literally on the charts.
So had you never gotten genetic testing before on your earlier cancers?
No, I had it, but that we didn't have immunotherapy back 20 odd years ago, right? And then it really just kind of came in, it's just really been the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Practice more and more. It was experimental. It was around, but people weren't really using it.
Right.
So anyway, it was just kind of a Hail Mary, but my oncologist was willing to try it because of the excessive number of mutations, which does tend to favor a good response with immunotherapy. And they explained to me why that is, but in any case, it is, and it worked. So
Wow.
right now I have no cancer. Who knows about tomorrow, but
Wow. So we'll wait for Dr. Mo to come to you guys to explain immunotherapy and the difference between chemo, because she can do a way better job of it. But it is, we know that Keytruda is working miracles with Black women and triple negative. Thank God for it, and it's really
right.
the only drug we have for early stage and metastatic, right?
Yeah.
Triple negative breast cancer. We have one other drug for metastatic triple negative, Trodelvy, and both of them are, oh my gosh, giving life, giving life,
Yeah.
giving you another birthday, another
Yeah.
another heartbeat, another milestone in your life, right?
Right. But that said, it can be a miracle for many people, but I hope, I don't want your listeners to feel like they should run out and necessarily get
Yeah.
it
Oh
tomorrow.
yeah.
Because,
Yeah. But
because
we highly
actually,
recommend it. It's funny, we were
yeah,
we were with our friends from Merck who make Keytruda, and they were saying like at ASCO, they were sort of giving them a hard time that they weren't effectively marketing this brand that's doing so well for breast cancer, right? And so I said, well, yeah, we market it every day. We tell people triple
yeah,
negative is so huge for us, but
yeah. Well, that's one reason why insurance covered it for me, was because I had triple negative.
yeah, thank God for that, right?
Yeah, I was a good candidate, so I
Right.
didn't have
Right.
many options,
So
right?
now you've had cancer 3 times. So what are you doing in your lifestyle? Like, what changes have you made? What are you doing to like whatever? But before we go there, we have a
Yeah.
question from Katrina. If your cancer was initially hormone positive, did you take tamoxifen?
Yes, I did.
And
Took
you still have,
tamoxifen for a long time. I took it for like 10 years.
recurrence, and you still had a recurrence.
Yeah. But I went 7 years, without a recurrence. So I don't know. I think it was probably effective. But, my guess, okay, I know nothing about this. I'm not in the medical field, but my guess is that it was managing well the estrogen positive cancer cells.
Yeah,
But
but not
also,
the triple
I
negative.
clearly had estrogen negative cells.
Right. Right.
And ultimately they sort of prevailed in the tumor.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, and we hear that a lot. We hear that you have ER positive, hormone positive the first time, and it comes back as triple negative.
yeah. So
That a
there you
lot.
go. I know it does
My
convert.
friend Alice, one of
Yeah.
my best friends, it came back with a vengeance at triple negative, and she
Yeah.
also has to take tamoxifen. So
Yeah.
Katrina, sit tight till Dr. Mo gets here, and we'll ask her about that. All right.
So when I had my first recurrence in 2008, that was when it was metastatic officially. And I thought, well, what can I do here? This thing could kill me. I mean, there must be, it was a wake up in a way, even that the first diagnosis was not. I mean, it was scary and terrible. But I thought, okay, it's, I'm taking the chemo, I'm doing the radiation, I'm probably going to be okay. And then when it turned out to be metastatic, it was a real wake-up call for me. Like, I better do something. Like, there must be some way I can participate in my own health here. And I didn't know what it was. And I asked my doctor, and he didn't have any guidance for me. He said to me something I've learned since is said to most cancer patients who ask this question. He said, well, just maybe get some exercise and try to keep your stress level down, and I'll see you in 6 months for your scan. And that was it. And he's a great doctor. He's a great doctor. He's really good at what he does, but most of them are not at all educated or trained in the role of lifestyle in reducing risk of cancer and cancer recurrence.
Right, they're not, and they're not even good at nutrition.
No, that's a big piece of it.
They're not good at, they're not even good at mental health. They're not good at any of the things that could be, associated with your cancer.
And that's okay, because that's not their role.
That's not their lane.
But patients should know that that's what they have to offer is just one slice of the whole pie.
Yeah.
That we really need to look for other ways that we can help ourselves and reduce our risk and take power back, because most patients, I'm sure you went through this too, you feel victimized, you're completely disoriented, you don't know what to do, you're powerless. And especially you feel that way. And especially when you stop your treatment, then you feel really vulnerable and exposed. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Just wait for it to come back? Like, what do I do now?
I know,
And
I know.
that's really where our program comes in. That was when I developed the program, was starting in around then, to educate people, including myself. I had a lot to learn too, about things that I could do, lifestyle behaviors that I could adopt that would reduce my risk. And when you say about you can't prevent breast cancer, we never use the word prevent.
Right,
Like,
right,
we're all about risk reduction. That's what we're all about.
right.
When you
Okay.
look, I'll just say that when you look at just one example, there's been really interesting studies on Japanese women who, like in Japan, their rate of breast cancer, I think it's 1 in 36 women.
Really low. It's really low.
And
Really.
in the US, it's 1 or I think 8, right?
1 in 8.
So but interesting
1 in
thing,
8 for overall Black for women, right? But for Black women under 35, we get it at twice the rate of white women and die at 3 times the rate. So it's 1 in 8 overall for all ages. But when you break it down to young women,
yeah.
here comes Mo. Mo's gonna love this topic because
Hey, Mo.
I said, you're gonna love, I was just saying, you're gonna love this topic because we're talking about lifestyle, and she is unlike the other doctors that we were talking about that know nothing about lifestyle. She's having trouble getting in. She's all
There we go. I had to get my audio right. I made it, Meg. How you doing?
Nice to see you again.
Glad you're here. I was just talking you up because Meg was just saying how most doctors don't look at you holistically. Most oncologists just treat the cancer and give you the Keytruda or whatever, but they can't really talk to you about lifestyle. It's like, this is not Mo at all. She's all about your whole mind, body, spirit, everything, so.
We have so much work to do, I think, to really get to the point where the clinicians are not only just in the room, but at the table. And I love the work that you're doing in that space to really bring the evidence and the science behind it, and it's similar and parallel to the work that Ricky does to bring the science behind Black breast cancer. Like you need the numbers, you need the data, you need the science. And there is a growing body of literature that really speaks to integrative wellness and how it benefits cancer patients. We've all known it. You've known it. You've used it, right? Did she tell her whole story on?
Yeah, she just told her story, her cancer story 3 times, and she went from ER positive, but and actually someone asked a question too, Mo, that we saved for you. Took tamoxifen for 7 years and then came back with triple negative. So so tamoxifen doesn't work on triple negative though.
It does not. And the thing that people need to know is that, the medicines help reduce the risk of recurrence of that type of cancer. Right. And so, it's hard to point to things like lifestyle as the cause of cancers, because I got plenty of patients who are vegan and they exercise 6 days a week and they drink alkaline water. Like, cancer happens no matter what you do, but lifestyle can definitely help to reduce the risk of recurrence and help you get through treatments more. But the pills, the estrogen blockers are helpful to help prevent estrogen driven cancers. And cancer cells are tricky and they mutate, and that's what they do. That's how they're able to survive.
But Allie had the same thing, Mo. Allison, she had ER positive, 10 years triple negative, and she took tamoxifen for whatever, almost 10 years. So that's the thing. So,
but I wanted to finish that story, Ricky, about the study on Japanese women.
Start over so Mo can hear you.
I'm sure Mo knows the story well, but the study essentially was that these women, Japanese women, as we discussed, have a 1 in 38 or 36 a chance of getting breast cancer. And obviously here it's much higher, 1 in 8 or thereabouts. But when Japanese women, so people, you could say, well, it must be genetics, but when they move here to the United States, this is the interesting part of the study, their rate equalizes with American women. Okay. Yeah. So there's something going on here. Okay. And that's what I mean. When you say you can't prevent cancer, we don't, in our program, the Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program, we never use the word prevent, but you can talk about risk reduction. And this is real. This has been shown because, we all produce cancer cells, all of us, every human being on the planet produces cancer cells every day. And most people's immune systems are adequate to dealing with those cells and killing those cells. But many things have to go awry for the tumor to actually grow, right? And so there's this tumor microenvironment that it helps the cancer to develop. And if that is, cancer is an inflammatory disease. So if you can lower inflammation in the body with certain lifestyle behaviors, you can actually boost your immune system's capacity to deal with those cancer cells. And that is really the whole basis of our program, is about lowering inflammation, boosting the immune system via these lifestyle behaviors that have been shown to reduce risk. So no, we can't prevent, necessarily, but we sure can reduce people's risk of it and their risk of recurrence.
I love that, Megan. It's so true, and when you look at pretty much every population. So yes, to the Japanese women, I work with a lot of Asian, Indian women, Hindu and other religions and ethnicities, and they too, their risk in let's say in India, the risk of breast cancer, you're looking 1 in 18, 1 in 20, 1 in 40, right? And they get here, and guess what? 1 in 8.
Exactly.
It's something about not just this Western diet, but I think it also speaks to stress, to the lifestyle that we lead overall, not just the food that we eat. Yes, environmentally as well. I think there's some components to it. I mean, when I look at where I practice, there's, one of the lakes is called Lake Galena. It means like lead. Right? Like there's nuclear power plants. There's, they used to mine uranium in the town where my hospital is. So I'm sure that there's some components of that too. But when those populations who have lower risk come here, something about this environment on this continent that really causes the cancer risk to go through the roof. And that speaks to inversely the ability of us to do things to drive that risk back down. And I think that that's so important because it's something that everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we go to the areas where there's good data. So there's really good data about fitness, diet, environment, as you mentioned, all the toxins. And again, you can't reduce the toxins in the world out there, but you certainly can reduce the toxins that you bring into your home. And that's kind of what we focus on. And then lastly, but not leastly, is mindset and stress.
Yeah.
So these have all been shown to be contributing factors. Like even the American Cancer Society says, and this is a conservative estimate, that 50% of cancers are due to lifestyle behaviors. So you've got to look at that. And some researchers say it's a lot more. So you got to look at that and say, well, if that's true, then just like you said, Mo, that means there are things we can do. Now, one thing I'll say is nobody's perfect. Like I've been doing this stuff for a long time and I still have a long way to go, like especially on the fitness piece. It's all I can do to get out there and do stuff. I'm pretty good in the diet and I'm good in certain areas, but it's sort of a lifelong process, right? It's a lifelong process. It's not like one and done. You keep learning, you keep making little changes here, you do the best you can. But the point is you take back some control. That's what's important too, is you're not helpless. You can affect things.
Yeah. And it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. I love the word lifestyle. It's really
exactly
approach things differently, and I think everyone always says, okay, what's your new normal? Or how do you feel about your new normal? And I don't like those words. I mean, it's still like who you are, and how do you adjust to this? But it's almost like, if there's a way to reduce my risk of getting it back, I want to do all those things. Who wants to do this crap again, right? I mean, I did so much therapy and, so much, cutting the boobs off, everything. So to try not to have it come back again, and mine came back anyway. So how do we do that? Like, tell us some of your magical things that you recommend.
Well, it's funny, like we're just about to start a diet kickstart in early October. I'm really excited about it. When you sign up for it, it's 7 days, 15 minutes a day. You get an email every day about little things about diet that you can change, for example, like lowering your consumption of ultra processed foods. I'd say if there would be one thing for people to do, like if you ask me, this is just my thing, it would probably be different if you asked me in a week, but is reducing soda consumption. I think soda is really, really bad for all kinds of
That's a big one. You're right.
Big one.
Even
And
sugar-free, right? Talk about
Diet
that.
soda, right? Diet soda is not good, right?
diet soda is not good. And as a matter of fact, we just came out with an ebook because we have an online course, we have ebooks, webinars, blogs, all kinds of ways of learning. But the ebook was on sugar and cancer. And as a matter of fact, it's interesting. A lot of people drink diet soda to lose weight, but every single study that's been done on it shows that it is not effective for weight loss. And there's reasons that they speculate, but it's not effective for weight loss. Not to mention that the World Health Organization just last month came out with their determination that aspartame, which is added to so many of these
Yes.
sodas, is a sweet artificial sweetener, is a possible carcinogen. Now that's been disputed by our FDA, but
I was just going to say they walked that back, didn't they? Because they came out with it and there was like a huge backlash against it, and they started sort of creeping it back slowly but surely. But it was out there at first. It was.
they didn't actually retract. They have two different committees at the World Health Organization, and one said no and one said yes, and the FDA said no. And they, like you said, Mo, they took a lot of flack about it. But the point is this: even if the data is weak, it's there. There is a correlation, and who wants to mess with that? Okay, so according to the FDA, you'd have to drink 14 sodas a day to reach the amount that would give you cancer. But who even wants to dabble in that stuff?
Even think about it. Well, it's interesting because I was a marketing person before I did this my God job, and I worked on when aspartame was launched. I worked on bubblegum. Bubblegum was the brand I worked on.
Oh, wow. I knew that.
Gosh, many years ago, right? Probably, I
I
guess
remember Bubble Yum. Oh yeah.
on bubblegum. That was my brand. I
I
actually
love
launched,
it.
I launched the 2 flavors in one banana berry split. It was like 2 flavors in one, but that's when aspartame came out, and they gave us this FDA document that was probably 100,000 pages. It was like this thick, so that we had to read this document. But that was like all the data that came out about aspartame. And
Wow.
back then in the 80s, it basically said it's a carcinogen. And I think they had a hard time getting it approved back then, but they finally did, and it went into gum. And I kept saying, I worked on this gum brand. I said, do not eat the sugarless gum. It's better to eat the sugar gum because this stuff is going to kill you. And I think,
Well, I mean, you got to choose between cavities and cancer. Yeah.
right,
It's
right,
crazy.
right. It's crazy.
But
But I remember back then saying, this is not a good thing. This is not a
Yeah.
good
Well, your instincts, that's the thing. You got to really use your instincts. I mean,
Yeah.
these things that are, you shouldn't have to have a PhD to know how to live well, So I think when there's certain basic rules, like if ultra processed foods, right, with all these food colorings and additives and artificial sweeteners, anything that your grandmother didn't know about, or your great grandmother in her kitchen, is probably not so great to eat.
True.
That's
Wow.
one thing you might ask is like, would my grandma have known about this?
right.
Right. So just kind of basic
Mhm.
whole foods are, or when it comes to chemicals, like this gives you a clue, because there is definitely a lot of industry capture of our regulatory system, unfortunately, because when we have like 11 personal care product chemicals banned in this country. In Europe, it's about 1,500. The same,
Wow.
right? So why is that? Why are they
Yeah.
banning, right?
And when you look at, who's doing the research on that, we certainly have, the environmental working group that's doing a yeoman's job, I think, of finding the safe chemicals and pointing
Right.
out the safe products and pointing out those which might be more toxic. But you think there would be a lot more attention to it. And I know even in the advocacy space, there's a couple organizations that are really, really focused on it. Tia Tomlin's comes to
Yeah, I'm
mind,
gonna
Ricky.
mystyleMatters.com.
Absolutely, especially looking at it from this perspective of women of color, Black women who use hair care, skincare products, and what's been happening in that space. But you're right. We don't think as much about these things, but these are small ways and possibly even big ways, large ways that we can help to reduce our risk, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
completely. Because a lot of these personal care products, I mean, the stuff that's in the hair straightening is just flat out toxic, carcinogenic. I mean, that is so bad. But in just basic personal hair products, there's a lot of hormone disrupting chemicals, right? BPA, phthalates, right? These things mess with human hormones. I mean, there's a reason why male sperm count worldwide has gone down about 50% in the last century.
Really?
There's a
Really? Wow.
that. It's
Wow.
interruption. It's these estrogens that are in our environment that are, messing with us.
Wow.
Think about EWG, they did a study. I'm actually on the board of of the Environmental Working Group. And we did a study 10 years ago on cord blood of babies. And there were, something like an average of 240 chemicals, human-made chemicals
In the baby, in the umbilical cord?
the umbilical
Wow.
cord with 10
Wow.
babies. Yeah,
Wow.
we include
Wow.
that in our environment module in our course. You can learn about it there. I don't mean to sound all gloom and doom. Actually, the point of this is the opposite. The point of this is that we have the power. Just we'll spend a little time learning, like in our course or our ebooks or webinars, or there's other good resources, but we are really strictly evidence-based information, or else it doesn't make it onto our site.
So that's really good because you're
Yeah. So if you just spend a little time educating yourself, you can easily avoid these things. There's apps to help. There's all kinds of, you don't have to do the research on every product. So it's not really that difficult or that expensive, because like with cleaning products, we just did a webinar on clean cleaning, and we're about to do an ebook. Clean cleaning meaning non-toxic cleaning. And Madison Avenue, the advertising world, has convinced us all we need 80 cleaners for our house. We need one for the toilet, we need one for the shower, we need one for the stainless steel, we need one for the floors, on and on and on. We need all these products or our home won't be clean. And as a matter of fact, that's a bunch of garbage. You can clean your home. Most of the cleaning I do is with white vinegar and water and baking soda.
I was just going to ask you that. What do you clean your home with? Yeah.
That's what I clean my home with. I do have a non-toxic thing for the floor. I don't use that on the floor. But other than that, I do pretty much, I use, like, for mold in my shower, hydrogen peroxide. It's not as toxic as bleach. Not nearly, it's not even toxic. Bleach is quite toxic. I just spray it on, and so there are solutions. I mean, oven cleaner is highly toxic. A baking soda paste in your oven works great.
Yeah.
Leave it overnight, just wipe it off the next day. So these are the kinds of things we try to teach. It's not that difficult. It's not expensive. It's just basic sort of healthy living.
I think
This is really,
it's great. But we automatically think, oh, we can't afford Whole Foods, but you don't have to go to Whole Foods. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to buy the
That's
most
right.
expensive things.
That's right.
sounds like things you can make at home. And it brings up the question from the chat. Somebody said, I get stressed out because I have to read labels. I can't eat certain things. I can't put certain things on my body. This is stressful. How do you take the stress out of this process of simplifying? I'm going to call it simplifying rather than complicating your life, right? How do you take the stress out of this? How do you start?
It's an excellent question. And we deal with this all the time when we teach this stuff. But basically, after a while, like right now in my life, I don't stress about it at all, because I figured, I've gone through sort of basic education about it. It didn't take me that long initially. Some of the changes are not always easy. Like I mentioned, the fitness piece, to get my sorry self off my chair and, go for a walk and stuff. But I know what to do, and I know what to buy, and I have brands that I trust. There are brands that are trustworthy out there that I know if I see a product of theirs, no problem. Otherwise, I'll use an app like EWG, or Yuka is a nice one. Clearya, if you're doing online shopping, Clearya. So this is the kind of thing we're trying to give people simple aids so that they don't have to figure it all out themselves. They can just scan when they're in the store, scan the labels. EWG has a healthy cleaning database. You scan the label and you can see if it's toxic or not toxic. So there's a lot of help out there. And once you get some basic education, and I mean basic, it's not fancy, it's not, complicated, then you kind of start to know what to do.
Yeah, you have to get it.
Can you give those sites again?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is for online shopping. I like Clearya, Clearya. They do,
.com?
well, that's the name of the app. It's actually an app. You can, I think there is Clearya.com where you can learn about the app, but you have to get the app.
Learya.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that will flag things when you're shopping
Mm.
for if it's a toxic product. They're a nice app. There are other apps, EWG has Skin Deep, which is a great one. That's for personal care products. They have about 75,000 different personal care products in the database, and they have EWG. I say we because I'm on the director, but we have scientists who actually work for our nonprofit who do this research. So it's really cool. It's really informed. There's another one called Think Dirty. Gosh, there are a lot of apps out there. One called Yuka, Yuka. They give a good score to foods and personal care products. I'm pretty sure Yuka does. So yeah, there's help out there for shopping for sure. And then when it comes to food and diet, we have so much information about that, and it's like even just one ebook we have called the Anti-Inflammatory Diet. It's been downloaded like 25,000 times. I mean, it's free. All of our assets are free, by the way. I didn't mention that. And we now have it in Spanish, and it's flying off the shelf in Spanish. And we have a bunch of Spanish ebooks. So
Wow.
even something basic like that, and the ebooks are beautifully illustrated, so they're kind of fun to read. So yeah, it's, I would encourage people to explore our site, anticancerlifestyle.org, and just, tap into things that, the way you like to learn. You might want to read an ebook, you might want to read a blog, you might want to learn about diet, fitness, or mindset, or environment. You can pick your topic, you can take our online course, sign up for our Kickstart in October. We're excited about that. So there's many different ways to take in information, but I want to emphasize nobody has to do anything tomorrow. There's no urgency here. This is like, it's the start of a process, and it's a fun process because you're feeling like, wow, yeah, I'm really educated about this now, and I'm going to tell my neighbors and my family what I've learned. And, it can become sort of a community thing to share.
Yeah, and it could be something you do with your kids even, I think, we see all these kids drinking soda and eating Cheetos, and I get in trouble eating my grandchildren Cheetos.
Can I tell you that in our physician message boards and our groups, the pediatricians are all asking for advice because they're seeing so many kids who have hypertension, and like, how do we manage hypertension in young people when all the studies, many of them were on people who were over the age of 40 or 50, right? How do we manage diabetes? Well, yes, we knew about diabetes, but how do we manage obesity in these young kids? And at what age do we consider starting them on certain medications? And like, there's a whole segment of medicine that's being redefined by juvenile obesity. And very, very much like juvenile cancer, right? Juvenile breast cancer. We're starting to see more and more young people get breast, colon cancer, uterine cancer, cervical cancer, and obesity and hypertension as well. So it very much is all connected.
It sure is. And there's money to be made in the therapeutics. There's no money to be made in prevention. And yet that's the best healthcare dollar ever spent, is on prevention in the first place. So it's really so sad.
I love that.
About coming up with these new therapies. Of course, you need therapies because people are in an acute situation, but ultimately we have to try to step back and see why, why these kids are getting so sick in the first place and getting cancer. I mean, when I was in my 20s, you never heard of anyone under 50 getting cancer, ever. I didn't know one person. And now I have 3 adult children, and they all have friends who've had cancer. It's just, I see it in my own life too. And I'm sure
it's all around us. You can't imagine how many calls I get from young women with triple negative. It's frightening. It's just horrible. I'm 37. I've got 3 kids. I'm 32. I got 2 kids. I'm 28.
Yes. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. So we really have to figure out. And I think that, we don't think about it because we're all busy. We're all consumed with these stressful lives. We live connected to a cell phone, you know, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're sick, right? But also the environment encourages, you know, when you're a single mom, you know, going to McDonald's and spending what, I don't even know how much a Happy Meal costs, but it's cheaper than going to the grocery store and cooking and takes less time. And so
Exactly.
we're using these options that are not, that are going to kill us eventually, right?
That's right. I mean, everything is kind of set up. You look at, I mean, not to get boring, but you look at farm subsidies from the federal government going to corn and soy. And, you know, the corn is mostly going to either animal feed or high fructose corn syrup.
Corn syrup.
Bad for us, right? And goes into these ultra processed foods. So everywhere we look, there are commercial influences that want us to buy and are making it affordable for us to buy things that are really bad for our health. And so
It brings up a question, though, that someone asked in our Facebook chat. You know, can we talk about what is subsidized? And in terms of like when you go to the market, someone asked the question, you know, is there coverage in under EBT cards and food vouchers for healthy food? Can we talk a little bit about some of the resources when you're on a budget?
yeah, I don't know what the federal government, you know, the budgets change so much, and I don't know where things are right now with that particular topic. With that, you know, with those kinds of subsidies, I don't know where it's at today because it has changed so much over the last few years. But we do focus on that. Like when you talk about, say, eating, you want to try to eat well on a budget. So we talk about this a lot in our online course, in our diet module, because, for example, we counsel people to, because the evidence shows it very strongly, that a more plant-based diet is a healthier diet. So that doesn't mean you have to be vegetarian, but we advise treating meat like a condiment. So instead of like a big steak on your plate and then, you know, vegetables and grains next to it, that most of the dish be vegetables and grains, and you might have a little meat in there for flavor and texture. So if you're buying less meat, right? Meat is usually the most expensive thing on someone's grocery list. That technically should free up some money to get, you know, more veggies or better foods. So that's better in the sense that healthier for you. So that's one item right there. Not eating out as much. I know it's very tempting, but there are ways, you know, you can make a meal and have leftovers, because eating out's really expensive, and usually food, except for fast food, but usually food at a restaurant is going to have a lot of sugar, fat, and salt, which is not really good for our health. And when it comes to, say, eating organic, like the EWG has a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And the Dirty Dozen those are the dozen fruits and vegetables that are the most heavily sprayed. Like strawberries has been #1 for the last 3 years. And it usually has around 20 to 22 different pesticides on a given strawberry. So, you know, that's the kind of thing. It's like, well, I can't afford organic, but I'm going to try to buy as many items on the Dirty Dozen organic as I can. And then the other stuff is you don't have to worry as much about. So there are ways that you can incorporate this into a diet. And like I mentioned with the cleaners, I don't spend very much on cleaners at all.
That's a really great point.
Cheaper than baking soda and vinegar. You couldn't get any cheaper than that.
Right.
That's a great
So
point.
you said the Dirty Dozen. What was the other list you said? The Dirty Dozen?
Yeah, the Clean 15. The
Clean 15.
Clean
Okay.
15.
And what website are they on? What's the
EWG. Yeah, it's called oh gosh, I forget the name, the overall name. But if you go on to ewg.org, and just type in the Dirty Dozen, you'll be taken to the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15.
Oh.
And the Clean 15 are the vegetables. This is all USDA data. This is not from EWG. These are the vegetables and fruits that are have the least amount of pesticides. So when you see them, you can feel very safe buying them commercially.
Wow. Well, somebody did put in the chat that you can't use EBT, a natural food store, but I don't think you have to go to a natural food store. You can go
You don't.
you
You
know?
can go to Walmart. You honestly, you can, and Walmart has an organic section, and you can certainly take those foods that you buy and those fruits and vegetables, especially, and you can create gentle solutions with vinegar and other things that help to reduce and release the toxins. Really wash your fruits. When I talk to patients about this too, because I mean, cancer already has you on a budget, right? You're
Right.
strapped just because of the virtue of the treatments and so many appointments, and your mind is reeling, your finances are reeling. And I talk a lot about, especially this time of year, participating in CSAs, right? So in the food share programs from local farmers markets
Yeah.
and even urban farmers, they have CSAs where you could go in with somebody. So if you pay a subscription fee, maybe you split it among 2 or 3 people, because they
What is
always give you,
CSA? What's the CSA, Mo?
it's a community shared agriculture. So community shared agriculture, I know, like in Philly, there are a number of farms, and around in the suburbs too, but even in the city, there are urban farms that grow produce, they grow vegetables, and you can participate in that, and they'll give you a vegetable box like every week or every 2 weeks. A lot of times it's too much for one person, and you end up with stuff that kind of can wilt and go bad. But if you share it among 2 or 3 of your neighbors or friends, then everybody gets some fresh produce every couple of weeks. So CSAs are a great way. And then if you try to buy from like a produce junction, right? Produce, and then you can freeze. This is a great time of year to get fresh stuff that you can freeze, and you can use it all winter
All year
long.
long. Yeah. Yeah. The others are friends. Yeah. Unite for Her.
Hmm.
Unite for Her, they provide produce for people for breasties.
Yeah, in the first 18 months of treatment, absolutely. When it's a pivotal time for it, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right on.
and there's a great program called, I'm so glad you said that, Mo, about CSAs, which are fantastic. I can't remember the name of the website, but there is a website that will tell you the CSA nearest you. We have it in the resources in our diet module. I'm sorry, I don't have it handy, but there are ways to find local CSAs.
Right.
And as you said, great point about buying in bulk, buy in season now. There's fruits and veggies you can buy much less expensively, and then you can freeze them, just throw them in the freezer, or process them or something and freeze them. But yeah, there are some really great ways, just with a little bit of forethought, that we can all save money. As a matter of fact, Walmart and Costco are two of the biggest purveyors of organic foods in the world, because they're
I
so
bet
big.
people didn't know that. Say that
Oh,
again. Walmart and Costco.
Oh,
They
wow. Okay.
sell more organic produce than any other outlet in the world. So that's just something to bear in mind, because they have such volume, because they're everywhere, right? So they can also negotiate lower prices because of that volume. So you can often find nice organic produce, or big bags of frozen blueberries, like at Costco, organic frozen blueberries at a reasonable price this time of year. Just freeze them, throw them into smoothies in the winter, or
Hmm.
Yeah, well, my family loves peach cobbler. Like I make a bomb peach cobbler, right? And and it has to be fresh peaches. So I literally, buy peaches and I just cook them a minute and put them in the freezer. I actually season them and cook them for a cobbler, and I put them in the freezer so I can just whip them out and put the
I
dough.
wish I had known this, Ricky, because I have a peach tree that, I mean, we had an amazing peach harvest this year, and they were very good peaches, and I would have saved you some. And I have some in the fridge. How many peaches do you need to make a cobbler? This is exciting.
About 8 or 10. I'll help you
Hmm.
do it. I'll teach you. Give you my secret.
We'll have to do it together.
I have to
Go
tell you,
on.
after this podcast, I have a really good recipe for, it's a millet cake. I know it sounds like it's for birds, but it's delicious. And you put peaches, sliced peaches on top of it. So that's how I'm using it's a
That sounds
really,
amazing.
yeah, it's incredibly good recipe, simple.
Can we
Um,
talk about that next? Can we talk about some good substitutes for things? What are
Yeah.
some ways to substitute into the diet and introduce some things into the diet that you might not, typically use, but if you want to substitute for this, maybe you swap out that. Like an example of instead of oil, if you're making a cake or something, or cornbread, you could use applesauce as an agent to provide some of that liquid and that thickness, but maybe cut back on oil. So, what are some good substitutes, Meg, that you like?
well, that is one. And actually, in another lifetime, I wrote a yogurt cookbook, and you can use yogurt in baking. so easily to substitute for oils. I mean, it's really, you don't taste the yogurt, but you have the moisture and the protein from the yogurt. So it's called the Stonyfield Farm Yogurt Cookbook, if anybody wants to look for it on Amazon. But it's got some really good recipes using yogurt. So it's very healthy stuff, generally speaking.
You
Because
said Stony Brook Farms?
Stonyfield Farm, that was
Stonyfield.
we had a yogurt company once upon a time. So Stonyfield Farm Yogurt Cookbook. And it's still sold on Amazon, but yeah, it's got some great recipes in it. So yogurt's another good swap out. People will swap it for, I used to actually drain it. I haven't done it in a while, but drain it to create sort of a nice thick, when the whey drips off, it's almost like spreadable cream cheese. And I will mix in some, some anything, garlic, dill, smoked fish if it's around, if I have something, you can mix in anything because the yogurt absorbs the flavor of whatever you mix into it. Anyway, I could go on about yogurt cooking. I don't think you want me to do that, but it's a great
good mayonnaise substitute for sure. Absolutely.
sour cream, mayonnaise, yeah, all kinds of things you can do with yogurt. So another thing that I just wanted to mention, because we were talking about soda, is because we don't drink soda. It's something I feel pretty strongly about not participating in, but we often will get seltzer and just put like some fresh mint or squeeze a lemon, that kind of thing. Or I might take some fruit juice, like I like pear juice or apricot, and just pour a little bit in to give it a little flavor. And with some ice and some mint, if you have some, or a little squeeze of lemon, and it's so refreshing. In the summer, to me, it's more refreshing even than soda, and it doesn't have all.
I've totally gotten addicted to to seltzer water and just plain or with or some of the fruit flavored ones that are, it's better than soda. I mean, I actually so my secret thing with my granddaughters is to drink Shirley Temples, which is probably like the worst thing you can do. But I'm finding now when I drink them, I get a stomach ache. I can't do it anymore. So we've now tried to just we make strawberry Shirley Temples, and we just do seltzer water and strawberries or raspberries.
Just muddle them. That's right. I tell my cancer patients it's a great way to wean off of alcohol too. Two good substitutes. One, tart cherry juice is a great red wine substitute. So you're making sangrias, or you're used to having your glass of red wine at night, your tart cherry juice. But also, if you're going to have some alcohol, then cut it with some seltzer, muddle some fruit in there, and let's make it a nice, fun, social cocktail, almost bordering on mocktail. And eventually the goal is to really cut out the alcohol. But I'm a fan. I have a Soda Stream, and not to advertise for them, but it really helped to wean me off of sodas, because I enjoy the fizz. I enjoy the just the effervescence and the freshness of it. It gives me a little pick me up. Right. And I put my own little fruit, tangerines or whatever, mint from the garden. If I got some berries, I'll throw that in there, and whatever you have. And it just makes it fun, and you're getting some water in, and it saves money. The money you save on diet sodas and on juice and tea and all those things, it does.
Yeah, it all adds up. People have to find what works for them. But the point is just there's a lot of opportunities out there to kind of get out of our normal rut. A guy who was a friend of mine who wrote a book called Anticancer, A New Way of Life. His name is David Schreiber, and he once said that if a foreign hostile country wanted to kill as many Americans as they couldn't come up with anything better than the standard American diet. So I think I always kind of keep that in mind, that we really have to think about what every time we eat something, it's an opportunity to strengthen our bodies, to help empower our immune system and reduce inflammation, or the opposite. We can.
I love that so much. Every time you put something in your mouth, you could either be helping or hurting yourself. Right.
Exactly. And not to be paranoid. I mean, if you want to have that piece of chocolate cake, have that piece of chocolate cake, right? It's about purity, right? But it really is about how you spend most of in this case, most of what you eat. Nobody's saying be absolutely perfect in this, because we'd all fail at that.
It's really every time you put something in your mouth or even on your body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Meg, you want to show a video of some of your resources? Do you want to show that and then we can talk about it?
Yeah, actually, could you tee it up? That would be great.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a minute long for anyone who's listening, but it does give a nice tour of what we have to offer, and all our offerings are free.
Cool. I'll play it. Can you see that? Cool. Love that.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
and-
Somebody said in the comments that the standard American diet is not optimal. It is
A
truly
little bit
sad.
about Crystal. She is an integrative registered dietitian and
Uh-oh, the
nutritionist.
video's still going.
She's a
That's-
board certified health and wellness coach, a
That's-
certified
that's,
intuitive eating counselor, and she has an MS in clinical.
Whoops, the video.
There you go. Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. I should have mentioned that. The acronym SAD is just perfect for the standard American diet. So yeah, so I hope that your listeners will take advantage of our free resources. They're there for everyone. And, we hope that you learn and feel empowered by what you see and what you hear and what you read. Because there is some optimism, and believe me, I've been there. I've had cancer 3 times, right? I know what it's like to hear those words again and again, and how difficult that is and how it turns your world upside down. And at least for me and for tens of thousands of others who've accessed our resources, this helps, just knowing that you can contribute to your well-being, not just cancer, but overall, because these lifestyle changes are good for diabetics, are good for
For anything, right?
right,
And you-
cardiovascular disease. I mean, all of it. And a lot of people have these so-called comorbidities. They have other illnesses in addition to cancer. And so this helps with everything.
Well, we saw that with COVID, right? We saw COVID take out the people that had diabetes and high blood pressure. And, I kind of call those the black diseases. And you and I were talking about this before the show started, Meg, we now know that there's this growing body of data that shows that a black breast cancer cell is different from a white one, and our disease is different. And so, I always say, okay, we'll just work on black people, but we have to believe that just changing how you eat and rest and think about what things you put in and on your body could affect us.
Right. I mean, the cells may be different in some way, but the terrain, around the cell in any human being is going to be either promote the growth of those cells or not.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here.
Right.
This is always so enlightening. And if for the people who are watching that are saying, oh, this is a lot, this is information overload, it's a good thing. It's information overload in such a good way, because there used to be so little information on all of this. And
Right.
now you have an opportunity, and you have a place where you can go get good, reliable, vetted information, because there's so much misinformation, I think, online also about, things like CMOS and things like, and it's not to say anything against CMOS. I love CMOS, but there are so many other things that really help to promote health and wellness other than the stuff that just sort of filters through our Facebook as news. And it's important for you to go to websites where the information is vetted, it's validated, it's reliable. And this is definitely one of them, and it's updated, and it continues to be updated. And Meg, I know you I owe you a video because I have more to say. I've sent more patients your way. But we all just love it. We do. And
Yep.
it is life-changing, life-saving information at a time, especially if you're in treatment and you don't feel well, right? And
Yeah.
you don't feel like you can do this. Now's the time. This is
Yeah.
for you. It is so for you.
It
Yeah,
is.
and you'll feel better. It's a virtuous loop because you just start to feel better too.
Yeah, it's, we have, we have so many websites, but we don't even know what to trust. So what I love about your website is that you have the science. You validate all these things and make it say, well, this works, it's proven. And
Right.
and that's what helps me a lot to say, okay, well, I
Yeah.
can do this
Mhm.
because it worked for 10,000 people, or
Right. You can really trust our information. We don't put that's why we don't talk about supplements, for example, because the data on supplements is not good. I'm not
Right.
saying that supplements aren't valuable, but it's just we don't have the data to support it. So
Right.
that's why we don't include it. I'd love to, but we just don't have it. So you can really trust what you find on our site.
It's incomplete for sure. And it's not to, like you said, not to knock supplements, but we do need more evidence. We need more data to support how supplements can help. But we should do another show on that another time, Ricky, because there is a growing body of evidence about that too. And we can look at what's there and what's not, right? And take some of these supplements and really get into them, some of the myths and some of the things that people say are helping, and where's the evidence for them. And that would be a fun show to do. So I think we definitely should look at that,
Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
We'd love to have you on. You should join with
Come
us.
come back again. And we should really make a video about it and write an article. So we'll try to write an article for blackdoctor.org for the website and get you quoted in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'd
Count
love
me
to
in.
on our website as well. We love what you all are doing and so appreciate you. So I'm very grateful you invited me to be on today.
Thank you so much.
As always, we hope it's been relatable and reliable and real. That's what we do. We set out to do and hopefully accomplish every Wednesday on Black Doctor. And we thank our sponsors. We thank you for watching, for joining, for being part of this community, and for following all these great websites: Anticancer Lifestyle, Touch BBCA, Love of My Girls. Like, we got so many sites for you to follow. whenwetrial.org, and get involved with us, because there's room at this table for you also.
Yep. And Mo, we had a big announcement this week.
Yeah, we did. WNBA.
WNBA, we're now a partner, an official partner of the WNBA. They are supporting us, and we are one of their partners for health, for healthy
That's
women.
right.
So
That's right.
that I'm not sure what it really means yet. It's like
It starts with our young women, though. It starts with the young women.
It's for our Love of My Girls campaign,
right.
and so we are so
Wonderful.
excited to have them, endorse us and support our work. So,
Mhm.
so look out for
Congratulations.
information
That's
on
terrific.
that.
More
Yeah.
to come. More to come. So thank you all. Wow. The
Thank you.
doctor's in.
Doctor is
Thank you.
in.
So
See
nice
you.
to see you again. Bye-bye.
We also
You
have
too.
touch talk on Saturday. This Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern. It's on our social media. Come join us if you want to talk about stuff. And we also have Love Your Bones on Sunday with Dr.
On Sunday.
And we're actually going to do a testimony of my friend Christina, who was diagnosed exactly a year ago with osteoporosis and has done all the treatment, is like all better.
Wow.
So we're going to tell that story on Sunday. So join us. It's all on our social media. Take care, everyone. Be blessed.
Bye.
Love.
There is. Take care.
Bestie love.
Bestie love.
Thanks, Meg, so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.